Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is 3 o'clock. We're going to allow a minute or two for people to get on to the platform. We have roughly 42, 43 registrations for this afternoon. There are 21 so far. So let's just give everyone a minute or two to get on. I don't know if there's any load shedding. I know that communication isn't as good as it used to be. There's a lot of overload happening at the moment, specifically in Gauteng. So we'll just give everyone a minute or two. Just bear with us. Thank you. Well, it's a very good afternoon from him again. In other words, from me. We've got 29, I see 30 people who are now on the chat, and I think it's only fair that we start. Those who were on the platform at 3 o'clock or before that, we recognize that you were here on time, and we will start on time. Transport is always on time. It's in time all the time. So let's get going. I'm very excited this afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Gavin Kelly, the Chief Executive at the Road Freight Association. This afternoon, we're going to have one of the first webinars being presented by our latest and newest interest group, which is Cold Chain, a very important part of the logistics supply chain and businesses. For some people, that's the only transport they do. And I'm sure many of you will be quite aware what sort of role cold chain plays in terms of not only perishable goods, but in terms of medicines as well. So with us this afternoon is Paul Matthew. Paul Matthew is the chair of our interest group, and he represents the Global Cold Chain Alliance. For those of you who work in acronyms, it's GCCA. So if you see that around in emails, you'll know where that is coming from or what that represents. I don't know if you all know Paul. I'm sure he'll introduce himself and his team as we go along. But thank you once again for giving of your time. What we do in these webinars, if this is the first webinar you're doing with the RFA, is we say, if you've got questions, please post them in the chat, and then we will deal with those questions afterwards. We find that if we ask questions along the way, if anybody's like me, you have Alzheimer's, and then you completely forget where you were in the presentation, and you go down a tangent. So post them in the chat. We will then deal with them afterwards. And if we don't get to all of them within the time, we will get them to Paul, and Paul and his team can give answers, and we'll post them on the website. So welcome to you all, whether you're an RFA member or not. And if you're not an RFA member, you should be. Paul, over to you and your team, sir.
Thank you very much, Gavin. And yes, very excited about this this partnership with the Road Freight Association. Just for those who don't know me, I'm Paul Matthew. I think a lot of you may remember me from the road freight sector many years ago. Moved on from there into the cold chain sector. The global cold chain, GCCCA, we operate on the entire Africa continent. Obviously, our focus is on the cold chain sector and also on the cold chain side of transportation. So our membership is made up of cold store operators, members. With that, obviously, a lot of associate members who are suppliers into our industry. This whole new sort of chapter partnership that we're doing with the RFA, I think just allows us all to talk and to look at the transportation of perishable and frozen product, the storage of it as well. And when Gavin and I first started talking about this, is that we realized the importance and the link between the cold chain and the transport guys. So we are very, very excited about this. In our first meeting, we thought it would be good to talk about the Regulation 638, which is very important for the transport guys, especially delivering to our cold stores. A lot of transporters apply to this regulation and some don't. We as GCCA have also various internal committees, and one of our really active committee is our food and safety and compliance. And with me today, we have our chairperson, Verona Rumsuk, who heads it up. Verona herself is an expert in terms of food safety compliance within her own organization and adds huge value to our association in terms of her expertise and in fact driving, which is one of our very productive committees when it comes to food safety. So without ado, I'm going to hand over to Verona. She'll take us through the presentation. We also have two colleagues from the Department of Health with us, and that is Penny and Shirley. They will join the discussion in the Q&A section, and welcome to them. And once again, thank you for their support. It's very important for us to have a good relationship with the government as we move forward in discussing these issues. So, Verona, without ado, I'm going to hand over to you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you everyone for making the time to register and join us today. And I hope this is going to be value adding to you. I'm just going to switch off my camera as we share the presentation and go through. As mentioned, please feel free to add your questions into the chat, and we will try to answer as many as we can once the presentation is done. Okay, so is your fleet food safe? How do you know that you are compliant with the regulations to transport food products? Next slide, please. So today it's myself and it's Penny Campbell and Shirley who's going to be running through the presentation and the Q&A with you. So the overview for today's webinar is just to cover some key topics with regards to the Regulation 638, which is your certificate of acceptability for the food premises and transport vehicles. The full name of the regulation is Regulations Governing General Hygiene Requirements for Food Premises, the Transport of Food and Related Matter. So next slide, please. Within the regulation, there are a few key words that are defined. I've just highlighted a few, which I think is primarily the ones that we use on a day-to-day basis in the food industry. What does it mean to be clean? It means that you do not have any impurities, any grease or any debris on your equipment, on your transport vehicles, in your facility after you have cleaned your facility thoroughly. Core temperature means the temperature reading taken in the estimated center of the food. So if you know you are transporting a frozen or a chilled item and the food needs to be at a certain temperature, you take the core temperature of the product and that tells you what the temperature of it is. Cross-contamination means the process by which contaminants, allergens, or bacteria are unintentionally. Now, pay careful attention to this word, unintentionally, meaning that we do not do it deliberately. This means that we don't understand cross-contamination or that we do not understand how separation of food product works, but cross-contamination is unintentionally transferring contaminants to food products, which will cause harm to the consumer of the food product. Next slide, please. So we all know what food is. It's everything that we consume. And if we consume a food that is not safe, it can be detrimental to our health, and it can cause death or disease. The food handler. This is very vital for our industry. Who is a food handler? Every individual who comes into contact on a day-to-day basis with a food product is a food handler. Whether it is working in a factory, in a cold store, in an ambient store, or if you are delivering food products in a food safe vehicle. So basically, if you are a driver or a driver assistant and you are loading and offloading a truck, you are a food handler if you are handling any packaged or unpackaged food product. Food hygiene means the condition and measures necessary to ensure the safety and suitability of food at all stages of the food chain. So basically, food hygiene is we keep everything neat, we keep everything clean, and we ensure the safety of the food when we consume it. Next slide, please. Food safety means the assurance that food will not cause harm to the consumer when it is prepared or eaten according to its intended use. Food safety is very vital to the food industry. Whether you are a manufacturer, whether you are a warehouse, or you're just handling the distribution of it, food safety is vital because we are responsible to ensure that the food is safe when it gets to the consumer. When the food gets to the consumer and they prepare it according to its intended use, where it says to be cooked or cooked from frozen, whatever the instruction is, before it gets there, the food is still our responsibility, even as a transporter of the food product. Another vital definition in this regulation is person in charge. It means the person who is responsible, who owns, who manages the food premises, or who owns or manages the transport vehicle that is carrying and handling the food product. Next one, please. The thermometer, I'm sure everybody knows what a thermometer is, but if you don't, it is that little device that we use to measure the temperature of the product to ensure that it is stored, handled, and transported at the appropriate temperatures. The regulation does give you a guideline of the approved required temperatures, which we will share with you at the end of the presentation. For this webinar, a vehicle means a train, trolley, wagon, cart, bicycle, sled, truck, boat, ship, or aircraft, and includes any other craft, vehicle, or conveyances used in the handling, storage, or transport of food. So for everyone who's part of the RFA, you would be a vehicle owner or a vehicle driver or a manager. So you would make sure that your vehicle complies to the regulation 638 in order to transport food. So what is the certificate of acceptability? The certificate of acceptability is issued by the Department of Health to ensure that you comply with regulation 638, whether you are a food premises or if you are a transport vehicle transporting food products on behalf of yourself. If you are the owner of the food product, you may be transporting it on behalf of a customer, or you may be renting out or leasing your vehicles to another business that is transporting food. So you may not handle food or permit food to be handled on a premises if you do not have a valid certificate of acceptability. And this also applies to an outsourced vehicle used for the transport of perishable food. So if you have vehicles in which you are transporting food, whether they are a refrigerated vehicle, a container, or any other vehicle, even transporting ambient product, you need to have a valid certificate of acceptability. If you do not have a valid certificate of acceptability, your vehicle may and can be pulled off the road if you do not submit the certificate of acceptability when requested. Next one, please. So how do you go about applying for a certificate of acceptability? Now, every area that your business is located in has a municipality, which is basically the environmental health municipality. And you have to apply in writing to the local authority in which your premises or your transporter premises is located. For example, my business here, Snowlink Logistics, we are based in Clearwood. So when we apply for our certificate of acceptability for our warehouse and our distribution vehicles, we do it through the Clearwood municipality. So we will be sharing with you in the near future a list of municipalities that you can contact for your application as well if you haven't done so yet. So I see Charlene has dropped in a copy of the R638, in which you will see Annexure A is the general application for the certificate of acceptability. You can also contact your municipality and they will send you one on their letterhead for you to complete. So when you apply, you submit the completed form with the relevant paperwork, which is the owner of the food premises or the vehicle, their ID numbers, as well as the registration documents for the vehicles. You submit those with a signed copy of the application form, and then when the local authority gets it, they will refer it to the inspector in your area, and that inspector may or may not ask for more information. But what would happen after that is that the inspector would be appointed to come in and inspect your vehicle, and then to also, if you have a food premises with your vehicles, they'll do both, and they will highlight to you any gaps, any shortcomings, or any findings that you may have during the inspection. Once the inspector is done, two things could happen. They would either issue you your certificate of acceptability if there are no gaps, no issues, no shortfalls, no non-conformances. If there is anything that they are unhappy with that does not meet regulatory requirements, then they will give you an extension to resolve all the issues they highlight to you, and then come back and inspect you for another certificate of acceptability. Next one, please. Just a few key notes for us to understand. The certificate of acceptability, once received, you have to display it in a place that is easy identifiable. So if an inspector or any member of the municipality or the department comes in, or if your vehicle gets stopped on the highway or any such thing, the certificate must be available. So it has to be provided when requested. So once you get your certificate of acceptability, you put it up maybe at the entrances of your facilities, and then each vehicle, one of the things I've seen is that they put it on the on the dashboard or they put it on the screen. So it just has to be made available whenever requested. The certificate of acceptability is also issued in the name of the person in charge, who is basically the owner of the vehicle. So if the vehicle owner changes, if you sell the vehicle, or maybe the business is bought over by a new person, then within 30 days of this replacement, a new application must be done. So it cannot be transferred from one person to another or from one premises or vehicle to another. Each one must have its own and in the person who is the current owner of the vehicle or the premises. Okay, next one, please. So at the beginning, we mentioned a food handler. So everyone who handles food on a day-to-day basis, whether you're working in a factory, whether you're working in a warehouse, whether you're working in a retail store, whether you're working in a restaurant, or whether you are handling the distribution of the product, as long as you come into contact with the food product, you are a food handler. So as a food handler, you need to ensure that you are clean. Your clothes, your hands, fingernails are short and trimmed. For ladies, preferably no nail polish, fake nails, etc. The chances of cross-contamination that we mentioned is very high as a physical contamination. So all of those things should not be on. Fake nails, fake eyelashes, at every interval that you have between handling food, you need to wash your hands with soap and water. I know it's very difficult when drivers and assistants are on the road, but there are other effective manners such as sanitizers. We learned from COVID that we used to sanitize all the time. So if you have no soap and water, a bottle of sanitizer to just sanitize your hand at every interval will suffice. If you are a food handler and if you have any skin lesions, which is any cuts, any boils, and things like that, you have to inform management so that they are aware of it and they can provide you the relevant first aid, like a moisture-proof dressing to prevent the contamination of the food with any sores or cuts you may have. If you are a carrier or if you are suspected to have a communicable disease such as a common cold, the flu, jaundice, diarrhea, vomiting, you need to inform your management because you cannot be coming into contact with the food product. You will only be allowed to resume work or resume handling food if you submit a certificate by a medical practitioner stating that you are fit to handle food. So you have to go to the doctor, get your treatment, get your medication, and when your doctor says you are fit to handle food, that is when you may resume your responsibilities. Next one, please. As a food handler, there are do's and don'ts. So you cannot spit in an area where food is prepared or handled or any facility. So it's easy for drivers and assistants to do what they need to do or what they want to do during the route. But it is important that they understand that they cannot spit on product or be basically disrespectful to product. If they smoke or use tobacco, please ensure you wash your hands before that. Do not bring any food products into contact with any exposed part of their body. This comes back to PPE. They also need to be provided with relevant PPE to ensure there is no exposed body part of theirs that will come into contact with food except for their hands. Do not lick fingers when handling non-prepacked food or any material. Do not cough or sneeze over food. Do not bring any food handling equipment in contact with their mouth or any other manner that may contaminate food. They are not allowed to walk, lay, sit, or stand on food or containers containing food or food processing surfaces or other facilities. If you have a hand wash basin nearby and you do not use it for washing any utensils or any facility other than your hands. And then while handling food, do not perform any other act than the above, which may contaminate or spoil food. So that means even though there's anything that wasn't mentioned, anything that could cause harm, could cause spoilage or contamination of the product should not be done. Standards and requirements for the transport of food. So if you are an owner or a transporter of food, you may not transport food, including unprocessed agricultural crops, or in any part of a vehicle unless that part of the vehicle is clean. So as an owner, you have to make sure that your vehicle is cleaned on a regular basis. Handling food products, you need to have food safe chemicals where you obtain the certificates from the supplier to ensure that the food chemical is food safe, that the chemicals you're using to clean your vehicles are food safe. You cannot transport food that is considered to be in good condition and safe for human consumption with contaminated food or waste food. That means if you're taking something to go dump it in a waste site or anything, you cannot put it in the same vehicle with a food product that is in good condition. You cannot carry any poison, any chemicals or harmful substances with your food product. You cannot put in a live animal with your packaged products or any other object that may contaminate or spoil the food. Subject to sub-regulations 1 and 4, the freight compartment of a vehicle that is used for the transportation of food that is not packed or wrapped in liquid-proof and dust-proof seal containers must have an interior surface made of an easy-to-clean and smooth, rust-free, non-toxic, and non-absorbent material without open joints or seams, and before food is loaded into the compartment, no square centimeter of the surface must contain more than 100 viable microorganisms. So for anyone who does not understand this, that means if you have to swab your vehicle, no square centimeter of your vehicle, of your compartment, should contain more than 100 viable microorganisms. So if anyone has done a test on their vehicles, after you clean it, you swab it, you send the swab for analysis. And if a square centimeter contains more than 100 viable microorganisms or bacteria, that means it is unsafe to transport food. So if you have the correct cleaning chemicals and if you have the correct cleaning procedures and you clean on a regular basis, which is after every load, you should not have any microorganisms in your vehicle. Your freight compartment must be dust-proof and it must not be used simultaneously for the transport of persons or any other item that may contact the food. So that means if you have food product in your vehicle, in the freight compartment, please do not put anything or anyone else in that part of the vehicle. So despite the provision to the contrary contained in this regulation, non-pre-packed food may not be transported in a manner that it comes into contact with the floor of a vehicle, the floor covering of the vehicle, or a surface of the vehicle that can be walked on, or with anything else that may pollute the food, or transported or carried in such a manner that the food may be spoiled or contaminated in any way. This basically means that you are not allowed to put a food, non-pre-packed food product directly onto the vehicle. Industry norm is that you use pallets. That is something that we should do, but obviously you look at the condition of the pallets and whether it's going to cause any other contamination to the product. So please, if you are not using pallets or if you are not using proper containers in the vehicle, please make sure that you do start now. Next one, please. So sub-regulations 2 and 3 do not apply to the transport of game, fish, mollusks, or crustaceans between the food premises and the place where the animals are hunted, or the place where the fish, mollusks, or crustaceans are caught or harvested, but their transport must be the best available method and within a suitable time limit for transport as required by circumstances and with specific reference to Regulation 8. So if you are transporting game, fish, mollusks, or crustaceans, you need to have the best available transport method and also the suitable time limit for it. You can refer to Regulation 8 for that understanding. So the last thing on that presentation was the temperatures. So that will be shared with you as well. If you are transporting or storing frozen products, it needs to be at minus 18 degrees. Chill products need to be between +4 and +5 degrees, and all heated products need to be transported at about +60, to be cooked at +60 degrees. That will not be relevant for this, but please ensure that your vehicles are at the correct temperatures for the transport of these products in order to maintain their temperatures, in order to ensure the safety of these products. Okay, so that's it on basically the requirements of that you would need to implement in order to apply for an R638 certificate. Paul, can I hand over to you?
Yeah, thanks, Verona. I will go into a Q&A now, and I'm going to look what's happening on the chat line. So we have a question here from Richard Rust, if I got Richard right. If I understand the question, it looks like they obviously could be supplying drivers and not have 100% ownership of the vehicle. So the question here is the fact that they don't own the vehicles, but 100% in control of them, how would they register?
So basically, the R638 has to be applied for by the owner of the vehicles. So if you are hiring the vehicles, you need the R638 if you are transporting a food product. So whoever is leasing those vehicles out to you needs to do the application and provide you with the certificate.
Thanks, Verona. Santosh, hi. Santosh, your question is, are those surfaces surface or core temperatures? Okay, that's quite a good question because that's quite a debate.
Yeah.
And we know we've been having that debate around the SPS issues, obviously a lot on the importation side of stuff. So the temperatures that you have here would, and Verona, I'll stand for correction, but would be on a core temperature, not so.
Yes. So the temperatures that are indicated in the R638 are core temperatures for the products that are stored, transported, or displayed for sale. I hope that helps. Okay, Richter, Penny, can I ask you to please maybe assist with this question for Richter?
Sure. Sorry. Sure. And good afternoon to everybody and to my fellow colleagues on the panel. So if I understand Mr. Richter's case, is that he has control over the vehicles and the drivers, but they are owned by somebody else. So he's the third party actually doing the movement of perishable goods through these freight trucks. So the regulations permit both, either the owner applies or the person in charge. So in this scenario, my guidance would be that Mr. Richter would be the person in charge of that premises, which for this purpose of vehicles. And so then he can then apply as the person in charge, which means that the COAs for each of the trucks will be issued in his name. Thank you.
Yeah, Paul, I'd just like to come in here. You must remember that somebody is operating a vehicle larger than 3.5 tons on a public road is required to have an operator card in terms of the transport legislation. And I would concur with Penny, because the transport legislation requires that an operator meets all requirements in terms of the cargo being moved. And that's a very broad statement in transport legislation, but it would refer to this regulation R638, I think you said. I haven't read it. I'll go and have a read of it, but I would advise the person who holds the operator card of the vehicle should be registered. Otherwise, you could come unstuck in this, but I would need to go and read that and come back to you. But I would agree with what Penny's saying here. Sorry, Paul.
No, thanks, Gavin. I mean, that's good information. So, Mr. Richter, we'll get back to you, either Gavin or myself, with more detail on that.
Yeah, there's another question there from Verona, Paul.
Okay.
No, actually, it's from Richter. Okay, so Richter, I do believe you have tried to apply from Stellenbosch municipality. Okay, so there is a section on the application form where the owner, if not the person in charge, needs to sign. So have you gotten that signed by the owner of the vehicle, basically to say that you are the person in charge for it? So I think if you had to open the R638 application form, I'm just going to get it out. If you look at Annex A on the application form, right at the end, it asks for signature of person in charge and then signature of owner if not person in charge. So maybe get the owner to also fill in the application and do the reapplication to the Stellenbosch municipality.
Thank you, Verona. Folks, any more questions? Surely we cannot get off so lightly.
I think, Paul, I think you've got off lightly today. Just to let everybody know that obviously the interest group itself runs 24/7, 365. And that's one of the things about RFA interest groups is you can ask these questions at any given point. It isn't only for Paul as the chair to answer. This is one of the benefits of being part of an association, is that your fellow transporters can also offer advice and give you support. So if you have questions, make sure that you're part of the cold chain interest group. And if you don't know how to get onto that, you get hold of Charlene. She'll get you on there. Well, she'll make sure that those who do the registrations get on there. Obviously, if you're not an RFA member, you need to become an RFA member. And that's another process added to that. But that seems to be it, Paul, unless we now talk rugby or surfing. But thank you very much to you and your team. Really, really appreciate it. I hope that for our members and those involved in cold chain supply are going to find this of benefit, and that there are going to be many, many interactions. I know you've got one or two things you said earlier in the year that are facing you, some challenges as technology changes and as some of the major retailers and or the Department of Health, I think it is the one that looks after your area of requirements quite tightly as they make changes and policy changes. But really, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate everyone being on the chat. Couple of closing words from you, Paul, and we can all go off and have a cup of tea.
As long as we can discuss about the Sharks. Yes, Gavin, to you and to the RFA team, to Charlene and her team, thank you so much for the support and putting this together. Really appreciate it. I think this is going to be one of many, and I hope those who joined us today got a good benefit out of this. Verona, once again, thank you for your expertise and your support to us. I'm also going to ask Charlene just to drop into the chat our call to action document, which you folks can download. It basically just gives you a bit of an idea of what activities and what we're focusing on in terms of our discussions with the government and our activities on the continent. And then a special thank you to Penny and to Shirley for your time from the department. I know you ladies are busy. Yeah, thank you to everyone, and thank you for those who joined the webinar. Much appreciated.
We'll put that call to action on the interest group as well, on the WhatsApp group, so that the young people know how to do it. They'll lock it somewhere, so it's always there. I don't know how to do that. I can't even open my phone. But anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.